Recording this as a memorial for one of the great actors from the American New Wave. Robert Duvall's roles seem endless, and his presence could elevate any film he appeared in. Today, we're focusing on 3 performances in 3 different decades to celebrate one career. All this and more, right after the intro music. You're listening to Second Cut. This is the weekly podcast where we talk about topics in film theory, criticism, history, etc. because we enjoy doing it. I'm Jacob, and I'm the one who, knock knock, who's there? Boo Radley. That's my joke.
I'm Sam, and I'm the one who...
You, Sam.
I'm Sam, and I'm the one who's got a hankering for Switzerland, chocolate, and a good smoke.
I'm Kieran. I'm the one who also has an acoustic guitar because that's as much as I can get out of this intro for it.
Oh man, sorry, Sam, you crack me up. We are the pity laugh. Oh, yeah. Well, he's had to hear that joke twice now because we restarted this intro. Less funny. Robert Duvall unfortunately passed 10 days ago. Well into his 90s, long life, long career. And yeah, we're here to talk about his films and what made him great. And unfortunately, one of the movies he's barely in, but he makes up for it in the other 2, I'd say.
Yeah. I mean, we've not gone for his biggest, most famous roles because we've kind of tangentially at least kind of covered some of them in this show already. But yeah, you know, he was a character actor, wasn't usually the lead, though he obviously had a few lead roles. But kind of known for kind of stealing the show no matter how big his role was in whatever film he was in.
Yeah. And I'll very quickly say that we have covered some of his films before, so I think we've done the Godfather movies. I think you guys have touched on Apocalypse Now. I know I, at the very least, have reviews of MASH and Network and possibly the Invasion of the Body Snatchers remake on, at least the original, if not the remake, so this connection, on the Film Magazine. Yeah. So, go dig up our old articles and old reviews are there, just in case we don't touch on them, that we have kind of visited Duvall in passing before.
Yeah.
I mean, just when you start listing his roles, it's just what a career he has, and it's kind of alongside and sort of equivalent to like a Gene Hackman, really, isn't it? But, he's got THX, Godfather, Conversation, Network, Apocalypse Now, and then even like recent years, things like The Judge and Widows, where like he was getting supporting roles, but he stole the show in like those. And obviously he directed, he had a lot of stage work, and yeah, he was an icon.
Well, stage was how he was kind of not discovered, but that's how he crossed over into film.
Yeah.
The writer for To Kill a Mockingbird, either worked with him or just knew him from theater circles. He trained with Meisner. He's very much in that new wave brand.
Yeah.
But he was born in 1931. My goodness. He had a dad who was in the military, and he actually joined himself after college. Trained with Meisner, worked on stage before eventually getting into TV and film in the 50s and 60s, and then obviously became an icon of the 1970s New Hollywood. And, Sam, you mentioned the roles, but The Godfather, I think especially, is the one people associate with him just because it's such a big film. He has a pretty major side part in it, and I think that speaks a lot to the kind of performer he was too, where he's not drawing attention, he's not doing anything big, but his presence in the films is really good.
And that's possibly why he didn't win the Oscar for the role of Tom Hagen, because he's too, compared to a lot of the other performances in that film, he's just so still, and just it's underplays it so well, which I think's a real talent, but possibly not the kind of performance that usually picks up awards. The voters tend to go for the bigger, showier kind of roles.
Yeah, and I mean, he's in Apocalypse Now. He was originally cast as Willard, wasn't he? and then Martin Sheen got it, and so they moved him over to playing Kilgore, which again, like, delivering the iconic line that even if you've never seen Apocalypse Now, you know I love the smell of napalm in the morning, you know, just in passing, and just in, like, he's only in a couple of scenes in one kind of section or sequence of about 15-20 minutes, but, like, aside from, like, Marlon Brando and Martin Sheen, he's the character that you remember pretty much, you know, because he's in sort of the most famous stuff, the Flight of the Valkyries scene, you know, and all that stuff, so just makes his impact even without doing that much.
Yeah, and you know I think it was The Guardian, may have been a different source I was reading. It talks about his quiet presence and how he's able to be so powerful while not going over the top. You know, the quintessential film for, like, people going way over the top and getting nominations for me is Marriage Story. Like, that's the one people like to bring up, and, like, I like that movie. I like the performances in it, but it really makes Duvall impressive when he's able to be such a good actor. And, you know, in all of these films we watched, he's never anything besides, like, you know, low key and a quiet, you know, calm presence that is still very strong.
Yeah, I was thinking that as I was watching them, that none of these are big, showy performances. I mean, Open Range, like, is the showiest of them, and even that he's still measured. In
I ended up watching Apostle, you know, as well last night. You know, his directorial effort, you know, and that's probably one of the showier performances of his career, because he's playing this very flamboyant Baptist preacher. You know, it kind of goes with the role, you know. But so it was quite nice to see him stretch those muscles, because he was obviously so versatile. And, you know, so used to playing these characters with layers that you gradually kind of peel back, you know, over the course of, like, a film's runtime. And again, I think that goes back to...
I mean, we do
it just goes back to, like, that kind of theatrical background and kind of the gradual development and workshopping of, you know, character and their motivations and everything like that. I mean, it was called the American Olivier by, you know, some critics, you know, basically, you know, there's similar kind of career arcs, you know, starting in, you know, being acclaimed in theatre and then moving into being, you know, like Chameleons, you know, on camera as well. So I think that comparison is pretty apt.
And I mean, I do say, you know, he's kind of a more reserved actor, and then I've just mentioned him in Apocalypse Now. Yeah, very much, you know, not the case. But, but I mean, even some of the other things is in Network. I vaguely remember him in Network. I mean, Network's a great film. I've only seen it the once a number of years ago, but I remember it being very good. And his last performance was in Pale Blue Eye, wasn't it? The Edgar Allan Poe story with Harry Melling in it, who's, you know, Pillion been nominated for several BAFTAs recently. And it wasn't the greatest film in the world, but I did vaguely enjoy it, even if it was like, okay, somebody's gone, all right, let's go gothic, you know, let's have some fun with old school Poe kind of Americana gothic, and him being very good in that kind of thing. And to be honest, if he was making this when he was like 1991, you know, even if it wasn't the greatest performance in the world, we'll allow it. You know,
exactly. Look at everything else. Even when he's just turning up, you know, and maybe is not as engaged as he normally is, he's still just kind of such a magnetic screen presence, isn't he? You know, he doesn't.
Even if he's a priest on a swing.
Yeah, I mean, so I found a couple of quotes that he's kind of said in interviews about kind of his kind of acting method, basically, kind of what he puts into his roles and his general thoughts in it, which I found quite interesting. So he said, "I'm not perceived as a traditional leading man, but I never aimed to be that sort of thing either. I never straightened my front teeth or whatever. I wasn't cut out for that. But even if I did a big movie, I'd still want to make it a real character." And he also talks about when you, and this is my favourite quote, I think, when you create a character, it's like making a chair, except instead of making something out of wood, you make it out of yourself.
Out of flesh. No, it the whole thing of him not getting a leading man role, I think almost, like, I kind of feel almost somebody like Harry Dean Stanton.
Yeah,
who again, obviously. Yeah, well, obviously, kind of Duvall had sort of a probably a bigger career than Harry Dean Stanton, but they both kind of, I think, excelled in this kind of quieter ones. What was it? Paris, Texas, we did a number of years ago with Harry Dean Stanton, and there's a similar kind of character to him in that and in Tender Mercies now that I'm thinking of it, and they came out like a year or two apart as well, so I don't know if there was just something in the air that these guys just decided, you know what, we're gonna go for these kind of smaller moments and go in for that. But yeah,
and it's funny that he's kind of known for underplaying stuff and being subtle and nuanced, but yet he's equally as at home, in like big epic sweeping things, like the stuff he did with Coppola, and as smaller kind of more intimate stories, like Tender Mercies. I think that's a real skill. I think to be equally at home in both of those.
Yeah, and I mean he's been in sort of obviously several sort of crime and movies like that recently. I mean, I haven't seen the Tom Cruise Jack Reacher. He's obviously in that, and Jack Reacher being one of the biggest kind of novel series of the last 100 years, realistically. It sold like hundreds of millions. He was in Widows, he was in The Road as well, which I've read the book, haven't seen the film. He's in these dark things and stuff like that, and he's not going for the quieter ones, although the Road is in a way a kind of more contemplative post-apocalypse narrative. But he's not like he's just going for these kind of little kind of cozy things either. Still at the end of his life, he's going for these big movies with lots of money and lots of budget, and still pumping the performances out.
Yeah, and I wish I had seen The Judge, but I know that's one that was popular when it came out, and then finding out it came out 12 years ago was nuts.
Yeah, it's funny. It's one of those films where I honestly can't remember whether I've seen it or not. It feels like the time it was out and who it was in. Who was in it. Rob Downey Jr. at the height of his Marvel career to do something that wasn't Marvel, so it was interesting at the time. So I can't think of a reason why I wouldn't have seen it at the time. But if I have, I remember nothing about it.
And with Vera Farmiga, the year after she essentially... I mean, she's been in stuff before, but she pretty much relaunched her career with The Conjuring, so it's the year after that. Vincent D'Onofrio, Jeremy Strong...
Good cast.
Just ridiculous. But yeah, so he was still in kind of these bigger movies right until, again, just only a couple of years ago.
Anybody...
I'm not saying like 95, 96 or whatever is a good age to go, but like if you're gonna go, you made it long.
But obviously, we had Gene Hackman last year, going at a similar age, but he'd been retired for 20 years basically. So whereas Robert Duvall is one of these guys, a bit like Christopher Lee, who never felt the need to retire. It's like, no, I'm going to keep working. I like working.
Donald Pleasance.
That's great. When you can get to the point that you love what you're doing and you can keep doing it into your 90s, you're capable, like that is impressive. But
because I think even Ian McKellen now is pushing 90, he's in his late 80s now, and basically says that he'd love to keep working for as long as he can, but he says the thing that's going to get him is his memory. He said he's already finding it more difficult with scripts, he says, but as soon as he can't read it, as soon as he can't remember lines, then that's it, he'll have to bow out basically.
They can't feed them into an earpiece like Johnny Depp.
I think he's principled enough never to do that. So I think he'd probably think, no, this is tragic now. Can stop.
Not too principled for cats, but too principled for that.
Or Sean Bean having the lines on his knee, so when he does the looking down for the or does not simply walk into Mordor, it's because he's reading the notes off his leg. Who is it also that had like down off the side of a bridge was holding up massive like cardboard signs of all the lines. I can't remember who it is. Stuff like that.
I mean, famously Brando, when he couldn't be bothered, he just had his lines just sprinkled around the set, on props and kind of on tables and things.
Or just improvising and not doing anything, just making it up.
Not actually reading your book. Apocalypse
as far as we know, Rob Duvall never needs to do that.
Well, let's go ahead and get into his first film, which, I mean, he's barely in it. But he made his feature film debut in 1962's To Kill a Mockingbird, which was a huge movie the year it came out. It won 3 Oscars for something. I forgot them already. Best Actor for Gregory Peck, Art Direction, Black and White, and I think Adapted Screenplay. And it was nominated for 8 total, including the youngest nominee ever, the actress that played Scout was nominated, although she did not win.
Who's the youngest actress to win?
Kirsten Dunst.
Is it?
Was it
really?
Interview with the Vampire?
Did she win? I can't remember.
I thought you were about to say get it on.
Wasn't it a bit Anna
bring it on
Paquin,
even.
wasn't it, for the piano?
Oh, okay. Was it her? It's one of the... At one point, it was Kirsten Dunst for whatever she won for. I do know that.
Yeah.
I tell you what, though, looking at Mary Badham's filmography just very quickly, she did a load of stuff and then just kind of stopped. Like, she did To Kill a Mockingbird, Dr. Kill Dare, Twilight Zone, As Property is Condemned, Let's Kill Uncle, and then stopped after 1966 for, from what I can see, 32 years doing a documentary on To Kill a Mockingbird, and then her first proper role is nearly 40 years after the last one with Our Very Own. She's done a couple of things in passing since. It's just like, imagine that. You're the youngest person ever to be nominated for Best Actress, and after a couple of years, you're like, I'm out.
Oh, and Jim also. He was in stuff until the early 70s. Philip Alford's the actor's name, and now he's a business owner somewhere. Just, I was in movies and TV shows when I was a kid, and now I'm done.
It's a bit like the guy who was in Village of the Damned. The lead actor in that, who's also in The Innocents. He was in like 8 movies, very highly regarded when he was like 10, 11, and then when he was 13 he was just like, don't care anymore.
When you look through every other actor in To Kill a Mockingbird, obviously they were much older than the children who are still alive, except for Dill. Dill was an openly gay actor who died of AIDS in the 90s, and he continued to perform up until his death, but every other adult actor pretty much died of cancer. So I kept going through and seeing, are any of these adults alive? Nope, it was just Robert Duvall, who was a very young adult at that point, about like 21, something like that. Maybe 20 when they filmed.
Excuse me, Gregory Peck went to bronchopneumonia.
Okay, well, there you go. Just don't look at any of the other ones. It's all cancer. And then also, like, apparently the lady who did the narration in this isn't credited for some reason, even though, like, I don't like the narration in this movie. For this movie, I'm with Kieran on narration. No. I don't absolutely hate it, but in this movie, it just feels pointless.
Yeah, I think it fits in with like the kind of the child's eye view on events and kind of looking back, kind of and.
But it's not the child's eye; it's the reflection it's the post hoc eye.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a carryover from the novel, which is a recounting of events that happened many years before. But you hear it and you just go, and I think if you're going to do a voiceover, you actually need to use it a decent amount in order to have it a continuous thing. This voiceover comes in like 3 times. Once at the beginning, like once in the middle, and once near the end. So every time it comes in, it feels like an intrusion rather than a coherent part. It's a bit like in The Hateful Eight, where like halfway through, Sam Jackson starts doing a voiceover. He's like, where the hell did you come? It feels off.
I mean, the perfect example of doing that well is like something like Shawshank Redemption, isn't it? Which again is heavily used, and that's just part of the language of the film. It works real well.
Or Apocalypse Now,
or Goodfellas.
Yeah. One that isn't done well is the original thing for Blade Runner.
Harrison Ford sounds like he's falling asleep on reading lines.
If you don't know what To Kill a Mockingbird is about, it is about. It's told from the perspective of Scout Finch, whose dad is Atticus Finch. He's a lawyer, and he is tasked with getting a black man accused of rape, defending him, proving his innocence or not guilt, and it's a tragic tale of like racism in the South, but told from a child's perspective. So it's like if The Sound of the Fury was straightforward, and just told by the kids as kids instead of, and why would I use Sound and Fury as like, if you haven't read To Kill a Mockingbird, but you've read the much worse book to read in terms of like the narration and stuff. Like To Kill a Mockingbird, I read in middle school, I think, and it's just very straightforward and easy to understand. And that's the last time I read it, so I had to remember plot details as I was watching.
I'll tell you, the last time I read this will have been probably middle of May, near the end of May 2013, probably about 2 days before I sat my final GCSE exam with To Kill a Mockingbird. And since then, I have not touched the damn thing. But there are some bits I couldn't remember specifically. And then there are other bits where I'm like, yeah, I remember half of the book being filler, essentially.
Well, they cut out like stuff that I do remember. Like I remember the aunt showing up and teaching her like how to be a proper lady and stuff. They just ignore that pretty much.
They cut out the whole thing with her ruining the garden of the neighbour and having to go around to the neighbour's house and read books, isn't it? I think something like that in order to make up for it. It's kind of teaching a lesson, stuff like that. I mean, the fact is there are essentially kind of two main kind of bits that kind of meet up at the end. There's the Boo Radley stuff, and then there's the court case stuff. And they eventually converge right at the end, and that's kind of the point in it. Yeah, and there are just other bits that kind of flick between the two.
So Robert Duvall, this was, as we said, his first film role, feature film role, and he does play Boo Radley, and he just shows up at the end. And I guess we can get to that in a little bit. We'll go through the whole film before really getting to the Duvall stuff, because I don't even think he has any. He has a couple of lines, so that's it.
The character talks about a lot, and he's a presence throughout, isn't he? But he only actually makes an appearance at the end.
Yeah, but so that is where the movie opens, though. It's summertime, and Dill is staying with his aunt here in they're in, I think, Alabama. It might be Mississippi. Either way, it's the deep South. And this little boy Dill comes to stay with his aunt. So Jim and
Alabama.
That's Alabama. So Jim and Scout Finch, like, they become friends with him, and he's based on Truman Capote in real life. He was friends with Harper Lee. So this is basically him being inserted into like one of the biggest novels ever. So that's pretty fun. And they're telling him about Boo Radley. They're like, oh yeah, he's a weirdo, he's a murderer, he's a scary fellow. And they go around spooking themselves with Boo Radley and Boo Radley lore. Because it's summertime, and what else are you going to do?
Yeah, he's almost like a campfire ghost story, isn't he, at this point in the story?
Yeah.
And then a judge comes. Now, it's the Great Depression, and Gregory Peck, he's playing Atticus Finch, he's a lawyer. A guy comes around and is paying him in food, and a judge shows up and is like, hey, I need you to defend Tom Robinson. He's been accused of rape. He is, a black guy in the South in the 1930s. So things are not looking good for poor Tom Robinson. And that's really what I remembered from the story mainly. I forgot most of the Boo Radley stuff, and I just remembered that the main point is like the injustice in the system and all those aspects of that story, because that is just sort of what it's remembered for. And whenever it gets censored in schools now, it's because like it says the N-word in it, and the movie uses the N-word, but it's mainly people who are racists. Whenever Atticus Finch uses words to refer to black people, he says Negro, and like he tries to be politically correct for the time. But
I was going to say, and the original book was written in 1960, and it's looking back to the Great Depression, so we have to take that into account in terms of
absolutely. And it's in the midst of the civil rights movement, kind of the height is when it's published. And it's told from Scout's perspective. She is the main character, but it's I think in the film it's more Atticus Finch's story. You can tell that by the fact that Gregory Peck won the Oscar. And now here is my hot take on the film. I think Gregory Peck was a terrible choice to play Atticus Finch. I don't like him in this movie, and only part of that.
Would you have taken the original?
No, I don't want Jimmy Stewart either.
For this?
Here's my issue.
No.
The Atticus Finch is a Southern lawyer, being played by a guy with a mid-Atlantic accent, dressed like he's James Mason in Lolita, and talking like him. Like he doesn't seem like Southern or genteel or warm. I don't think he has any there's no humor to him. He doesn't feel like a paternal presence. He feels more like just an icon of American conscience, or what should be American conscience, being played by one of iconic Hollywood performers in this time.
Yeah.
But Atticus Finch, the character, really feels like secondary, the realism of him. And ironically, I think much older Robert Duvall would have been great to play Atticus Finch. He would have fit more how I picture him based on the story. And I think if you made a modern version, you'd get a bit more grounded of a character. Because I feel like everyone around Gregory Peck feels like they fit in. They feel like Southerners. They have the accent. They have the perspectives and stuff like that. And Gregory Peck just feels like someone has been plopped into this story inappropriately. And
Okay, so if it was set somewhere different, but still in the States, still at that time, where in the nice way the accents are different. I know it wouldn't work as much because it wouldn't be in the South and that kind of thing. Would it improve? Essentially, if you'd have put on a Southern
if you
accent,
take it out of Macomb, Alabama, or out of the South, you have a different, it's a different thing.
But my point is it kind of, if you tried to actually seem like you were from the South, would it still work? But then again, you're losing Gregory Peck at that point.
He couldn't put on a Southern accent. I think some of it's probably in the writing too. Just the way that the role is presented and the way he plays it, I don't like it. And that's not to say he's a bad actor. I think just all of the decisions around it, whether it was him, the director, the writer.
Could it be intentional to make him kind of stick out and even more from everyone else, and kind of add to the uphill battle he's kind of fighting? I may be being overly generous.
I guess it could be.
Yeah,
I don't believe
that era,
that is the case.
It was quite. Yeah, it was quite a common thing in that era. I think big Hollywood movies to have wherever it's set, very kind of specific time and place, and then you just kind of airdrop in a big Hollywood name playing their normal Hollywood persona, and it's not commented on. I think that happened a fair bit at the time, I think, as well. It's never bothered me, his voice and kind of his take on the character and everything.
But maybe that's different because we are from the UK and not from the same rough parts of the southern states that Jacob's from.
Just look at and listen to Jim and tell me how he is related to Gregory Peck. It doesn't make any sense to me. But again, this isn't to say.
I was going to say everybody else talking like this, and then Atticus Finch is talking like this.
And, it's amazing, the things that can kind of break your immersion and bring you out of it. Stuff we, as Kieran says, we wouldn't necessarily notice, but I get why it's had that effect with you rewatching it.
He just.
I don't think he feels Atticus is from out of state and now lives there.
Yeah, I have no idea. I never got that impression, but again, I read it, so long ago. But I think another part of it for me is he just feels dry and disconnected, and he doesn't feel like a character within the story. He just feels like he is more of an icon and more of a political statement, something to say about America, and less the person of Atticus Finch within the story.
I was going to say, he is. The whole idea of Atticus in general is the fact that he is an idea. He is a cipher for kind of what at the time would have been fairly liberal kind of political ideas. That is his point. His entire reason for being is to put across these views in the midst again of the 1950s, 60s, when it is incredibly politically charged. And actually, Jimmy Stewart turned down the role because he thought it was too controversial, which tells you how much. If Jimmy Stewart, who realistically by 1961-62 could do pretty much anything in the world would give him a pass, is turning down Atticus Finch because it's so controversial, you know kind of where the political standpoint is at that point in time. So Atticus's role, especially when it's being on a big film as well. In a book you can kind of get away with it, and this was her first book and only book realistically. Go Set a Watchman was put in the trunk, and there's whole legal rights issues and stuff like that about that publication. I still haven't read it because I refuse to now. But that creation is a part of the whole, and you can do more stuff in the book, you know, to get away with it. You can bring other things in, and maybe some of the stuff that was cut out in the translation to the film also detracts from that. I don't know. I can see your viewpoint. I don't necessarily agree with it because I also think that his kind of big kind of by God, gentlemen, do your duty speech at the end is so good. And I also think the reaction to when he finds out that Tom's been shot is really good. In that, I think actually it's quite good there that he doesn't like completely break down, but it's the nearest he gets to it, and I think that works because he is somebody that holds himself together as a role model for his children to grow up differently, with a sense of pride and a sense of, you know, this kind of upbringing, and so he has to maintain that even in front of them. So I do like him for that, but I can see your point of, yeah, he certainly doesn't sound like he's from around there, and he's definitely kind of sticking out in terms of the environment that has been constructed in that town, which could put some people
I would just love to see, you know, Tender Mercies Robert Duvall plopped into this movie as Atticus Finch instead. And I think it would be a better performance for my taste for this movie. This isn't to say Gregory Peck is bad. It's just, it's very studio 1960s leading, like 50s and 60s leading man for me. And I made the James Mason comparison. He feels like James Mason in that movie, who is a visiting European professor to the U.S. Like, and they are indistinguishable.
It's a bit like It's a bit like people saying, again, I haven't seen it, but Tom Cruise in Jack Reacher. It's like, it's not like he does a bad job in it, but he's not the character. You know, Jack Reacher is massive and hulking, and that's part of him, and it's like Tom Cruise is definitely anything but.
I mean, let's be honest, you know, it's only a matter of time before Hollywood does another version of this, and when they inevitably do, I'm sure they'll cast someone more regionally appropriate, or at least someone who can do the accent.
Chalamet is Atticus Finch.
I'll give it another 15 years, maybe.
Yeah, if he were younger, like you cast Leo to be Atticus Finch. Like there's plenty of people that I think could do it now, the way filmmaking works, the way stories are told, and they care more about grounding.
I can genuinely see Leo doing it.
Mate, he could be 90. And if they were casting it and Leonardo DiCaprio went, I want to play Atticus Finch, they would cast him. Like, they would find the money. Even if they didn't, the distribution company would find the money, because you go, Leonardo DiCaprio wants to play Atticus Finch, right, we will find from the bank another 30 million. Yeah. Like, well, it's just how it works.
Again, like, critiquing a great
I don't know who you get
American
to play anybody
film.
Else. But yeah. Who would you get to play Boo Radley?
I do
now?
wish...
Woody Harrelson. No. Slightly withered Matthew McConaughey.
Oh, Matthew McConaughey. I can't think of anyone age. Finch, actually.
Yeah. Well, yeah, he could do the draw, couldn't he?
Actually, yeah. That's not bad. Okay, right. Just very quickly before we actually get on to the bits with Duvall in. We have to ask the question, obviously. This To Kill a Mockingbird, one character's a human, the rest are Muppets.
Scout is the human. No, Scout is the human, the rest are Muppets. Yes,
Kermit is Atticus?
That's exactly what I'm saying. or maybe...
My God, gentlemen, do your duty.
Or maybe Sam Eagle as Atticus.
No, Sam Eagle's got to be the judge,
probably,
surely.
Yeah.
Miss Piggy is Calpurnia.
Well, to critique again a great American film, from my armchair many years later, I do wish the court scene had been cut up and not just one giant piece in the middle of the film, because I think that there's a really good flow and pacing to the story until that, where it's just all in one big block, even though it's been a year over the course of the story. That is what it is. I think everyone who performs in those scenes and throughout, like every performance is great. I have no critiques of like Heck Tate or I don't know, Bob Ewell's, whatever his name is. I think that the lady that plays what's her name, Mariella, whatever, she's really good.
Yeah. Is it Mayella? Yeah, Mayella Ewell. Colin Wilcox, apparently.
Yeah, she was great.
Passed away in 2009.
Yeah. But then, finally we do get to the Boo Radley stuff at the end after Tom Robinson is tragically convicted and then murdered. The two Finch children are assaulted by somebody in the dark, and it turns out it is Maella's dad. They are rescued by a mysterious man. It turns out that is Boo Radley, and his first appearance in the film, he is hiding behind a door, and they close the door, and there's very handsome young Robert Duvall standing there, with like bleach blonde hair that's disheveled.
They put on the makeup to make it seem like he's sort of like, they've done some makeup around the eyes to make it seem like he's a kind of more gaunt and ghoul, like and
he
gets
he was always a good-looking guy.
Yeah, he gets introduced with, is it Hey Boo or Hello Boo? And every time I hear that, I now think we should do a cover of the Beatles instead of Hey Jude. It's Hey Boo.
I thought they said Hello Arthur. I thought that's how they introduced him.
No, because Scout says hello, Boo, because you see her face and she suddenly recognises this is who Boo is, and that's when the suspector that I've been fearing all my life is actually somebody kind and polite and willing to stand up, and that's the whole point of Boo. It's a changing understanding of he is essentially also a cipher for essentially people who are not white, of white people seeing and fearing this person because they're in the shadows and they don't know, but as soon as they see them and they step into the light, they understand that they're actually kind of genteel and normal.
Well, he does ask to
kind
pet
of switching
Jim.
off of the demonization. He's been inside for how many years? Come on. Aside from leaving creepy carvings in trees, so he's not normal, but he's just generally kind of he's
mostly harmless.
Mostly harmless.
Yeah, but Duvall is very, not stoic, but he's quiet. He is tame, and he clearly has like a heart and cares for these neighbor children. He's not the monster everybody, or they, thought that he was, and that's it. Robert Duvall is really good in his couple of minutes where he delivers a very understated performance, but nails it, and like there's nothing else that is needed to be done from what he has in this film. Yeah. Comes in, gets out, does the job.
Yeah. And from here, it'd be interesting to see, if he'd have obviously just had this performance, but, as the decade would go on, obviously you'd meet people like George Lucas and Coppola, and which I think gave him the real boost to his career. He properly got him started, I think. It'd be interesting to see if he hadn't come across those guys, what different path his career would have taken.
Yeah, so just before we finish on To Kill a Mockingbird, I found something very interesting while scrolling to the end of Gregory Peck's Wikipedia, that when he passed away at the age of 87 in 2003, he was entombed in the Cathedral of Our Lady of the Angels Mausoleum in Los Angeles, but his eulogy was read by Brock Peters, who played Tom Robinson in To Kill a Mockingbird.
Amazing.
So full circle, repaying a favour.
in life and in death. Life imitating art, imitating life, and all that stuff. So that's quite touching, actually.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that is nice. Well, speaking of things that are, really tender and touching, Robert Duvall,
merciful.
Yes, merciful. He went on to win an Oscar. I mean, I don't know if he won any others before this, but he did win an Oscar for a film. Kieran, talk to us about Tender Mercies.
So this wasn't his first nomination. His first nomination for the Academy Awards, at the very least. He got nominated for other stuff as well. But he got nominated for supporting actor in The Godfather and Apocalypse Now, which I think most people will know of. And then got nominated for actor for The Great Santini, and then later The Apostle. But in the middle, his win was for Tender Mercies, which we'll discuss in a minute. Should be interesting to know, actually, I've just seen that in the BAFTAs, he actually won for Apocalypse Now. Didn't win for The Godfather on Network, but he did with the Apocalypse Now. By the way, I bring that up because the BAFTAs were on a few days ago. Go, obviously, see our post for all the roundup.
Yeah, in case you didn't hear anything about it, there were BAFTAs.
Yeah, and it's the people off the stage that have caused more controversy than the people on the stage.
But by the way, so I know we're not talking about this, but is I Swear out anywhere? Because this could be the best potential marketing for that movie ever.
I Swear was out in the UK for a number of weeks, sort of around November-ish, and I was tempted to go see it, and just never got round to it. But apparently it's very good.
Yeah, and I think it's crept up the streaming charts quite rapidly since the BAFTAs.
Yeah, it still won't win at the Oscars. Leo will get it at the Oscars.
I don't want to sound insensitive. It's not because he was yelling slurs. It's I'm interested in this guy's story now. I watched a little bit of the documentary, and I want to see the fictionalization. It looked like a good film from the clips I saw.
It's great. It was my number 2 film last year. It was I didn't see it until New Year's Eve, and I thought, I've got to update my list now. This is amazing.
Yeah, I mean, setting aside,
did you do a post of your list, Sam? Top 10.
Yeah.
Obviously, go find that and check that out.
Yeah, and setting aside his apology not being great, most of this is on the BBC and the BAFTAs. The controversy. This has been the worst week of film discourse I've seen in a while. So.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of people seemingly are often experts on how Tourette's supposedly works. When they cut
yes,
out.
Jamie Foxx, just genius at it.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's talk about Robert Duvall.
Yeah. Something that is slightly less controversial. Tender Mercies, which is a film which very hard to find. Probably one of the more forgotten Best Actor winning performances.
Yeah.
I didn't know this movie existed.
Yeah,
no.
I had to take out a 7-day trial of Studio Canal streaming service for this.
Yeah, it's just one of those that you're just where's this? Is Best Picture nominated, Best Actor winner, and just zero. Something's slipped through the cracks like that. But yeah,
it's like someone made a Terrence Malick film, but Terrence Malick was retired, so.
Yeah. If you're expecting action, do not expect to find it here. This is very slow, very meditative, very contemplative performance in a film where it's just Robert Duvall, who was a country singer, who's had some stuff go on, and he's now left that life behind him, rocks up at a little, not even a town really, is it? It's a collection of houses, and one house, a gas station out in the middle of nowhere in the dusty desert somewhere, and asked to move in with the woman who runs the gas station, who's got a young son, and there he learns to reconnect and find himself again, and that's about it, really, for 90 minutes.
And annoyingly, we find out that Robert Duvall is another one of these guys who's seemingly good at everything because he's got a really lovely singing voice.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's just depressing.
Also, I drive through the place where this was filmed, pretty frequently. That's my favorite way to Dallas.
Oh, really? And you've only found that out like in the last few days. You're like, oh my god, it was done there.
Yeah. By the way, good Texas accent from Robert Duvall. Obviously,
Very good Texas accent.
play other cowboys, but yeah, take that, Gregory Peck. People can do accents.
Question: Is the gas station still there?
I have no idea. I couldn't tell you. I just know the place it was filmed in. I couldn't tell you about the gas station hotel.
Can I just say, therefore, if it's your favourite way to go, next time you head that way, head out slightly earlier and see if you can like take photos and match them up with shots from the film. We can get it, and then we'll put it on the socials.
Or if the gas station motel is still there, just take a picture in front of it.
Okay.
If you can recognise it.
I'll do some Googling.
So this is the second cut planning meeting, which you should not be privy to, guys. But anyway, So like again, the fact that this, I think, it is more interesting as an artifact of the fact that, you know, the whole point of second cut originally was to go back on films and kind of reevaluate them and stuff that might have been middling. This is one that's interesting because it almost feels like we're digging it up out of the ground. Like, who the hell has heard of Tender Mercies?
I just think it's so low key and mostly gentle and kind of almost feels kind of like it's not got the big kind of those got like some trauma towards the end of it. You know, it's not got that big emotional kind of grandstanding kind of moment that you'd expect like Oscar-winning kind of performances to have. Yeah. I think that it's just generally just good throughout and just kind of an empathetic character, and again showing his versatility once more. You know, because he can he plays like the tearaway drunk to start with, and then kind of builds himself back up and sings some nice songs and becomes a dad. You know, it's becomes a dad again.
Well, it starts in media res, which like I had to make sure did I skip anything? But it's very jarring.
Yeah, especially because it's like only 90 minutes, and you're thinking, hang on a minute, was something cut out at the beginning of this? If I just skipped ahead accidentally, because it doesn't waste any time. It just gets on with it, straight in, straight out, slice of life type thing.
To be honest, I think if it had been any longer, it would have been unbearable. I think this is about as slow as you can go.
If it was longer and more indulgent, it would have been Crazy Heart. and that one got on my nerves. As good as Jeff Bridges is, and that it's basically the same story but longer, and it's just not needed. You know. Yeah.
This again, because this is incredibly slow paced. This is essentially a character study, two character studies of Robert Duvall kind of reconnecting with the world around him, with religion, with the meaning of life, that kind of thing in a little spot in Texas, essentially, with the music industry and the world around, and kind of like that. So it's just like, again, you mentioned it's like a Malick movie. It does feel like a Malick movie in that way. That
it's a Malick movie without the shooting of nature and the weird editing of the voiceover. It's just straight story.
Yeah, it's more like Badlands in that sense, kind of like probably old school sort of Malick, where it's just kind of like shooting the actual people, and you occasionally see nature in the background, and they're interacting it, so he gets the shots in, doesn't have to split them up. But it must be said, Robert Duvall, I mean, for how kind of slow and, like, I say slow, just not in a bad way, but he is contemplative and low-key. For how much and understated it is, he does it very well. I don't know whether I would have given him the Oscar for it. I don't know who was nominated that year along with him. Let me see if I can do some live research and
you keep talking. I'm pulling it up.
Okay. I don't know if I would have given it to him for that year, but hang on. I've almost got it. So Tom Conti was done for Reuben, Richard Farnsworth for The Grey Fox, Albert Finney for The Dresser, Eric Roberts, everyone's favourite master for Star 80. But then, let's be honest, I think most of those we haven't heard of as much. The one we have heard of, he beat Al Pacino in Scarface. Probably his old Godfather colleague.
To be honest, of that list, I'd probably go for Eric Roberts and Star 80, because Star 80 is amazing.
But it's like, let's be honest though, it's I think this is interesting as well because what is it, like 50% of the Oscar wins or nominations you go, yeah, that's fine, and the other 50 you go, they're absolute morons. Apocalypse Now not winning anything, and things that have slipped through the cracks.
I don't think you begrudge him this win, but then you think of performances he's done earlier in his career, and you think, why didn't he get it for any of those? Basically.
Yeah. And again, in the nicest way, I understand why this got nominated. It's a very different thing to something like Pacino and Scarface. But Pacino and Scarface is so iconic now that you go, maybe at the time, but then again, the Oscars can't accommodate for how it's going to be received in the future.
I don't see Pacino and Scarface on this list.
Okay.
I see Duvall 1, Michael Caine in Educating Rita, Tom Conti, Reuben Rubin, Tom Courtney, the dresser, and Albert Finney, the dresser.
Yeah, my apologies. That's for the Golden Globes. That's my bad on that point. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's really not good.
But, I mean, still, the Golden Globes would put Al Pacino there.
And if you got Michael Caine and Educating Rita in the mix there, then it wasn't going to win. I think betting man of the subject, you'd think kind of Michael Caine is a shoe-in, but obviously, it was Duvall's time, which is fantastic.
I wonder if
even more interesting that they didn't nominate Pacino for the Oscar. Then
I wonder if having two lead actors from the same film plays any role in like them splitting votes or something like that. But I don't know what the dresser's
both
about.
Both of them are through for the dresser, yeah. They got two for one battle after another for the BAFTAs, didn't they? Was it Benicio and Sean Penn, I think, for supporting?
Yeah. So the dresser is a guy, an old actor playing King Lear, and the guy who helps him into his costume backstage, and it's basically a chamber piece, basically, and him having a kind of a bit of a crisis, and the dresser trying to calm him down and getting ready to go on stage. They did a TV movie remake about 15 years ago with Anthony Hopkins and Ian McKellen, which is also very good. I've actually seen that on stage. Not with those stars, but I've seen a version of the play.
What, the dresser or King Lear?
of the dresser. I've seen a version of the dresser on stage.
Anyway. So, I mean, and so it was also nominated for Best Picture. It was also nominated for Best Directing as well, which I find interesting because I didn't think of anything massive about the directing of this.
No, it's not noticeably directed, is it?
Also very low key.
Yeah,
it is, and I wonder if it's just like, oh, this is a good low key movie. Let's put it in as a compliment, a contrast against some of the other stuff that we're putting in specifically. I don't know. It's still very well received. I think fairly sure that Robert Ebert liked it very much. Sorry, my brain is going at the moment. Like,
that's okay.
I'm so done.
Well, for me, this movie, it also reminds me of like Paris, Texas, but without that visual edge that movie slightly has. Like,
yeah, I would take. I think we discussed this before. You might not have been here for that because I think you had to jump off for a minute. But yeah, it's like Paris, Texas. I would take Paris, Texas over this. I think it's got a little bit more to it. But
Paris, Texas has the poetry to it, I think, whereas this one, I think it's more, intentionally so, it's more grounded and kind of less lyrical, even though it's a sort of musical.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think it tries to pose questions about kind of meaning life and stuff like that, but I think it does it in a fairly wishy-washy way. I'm not 100% on board with this film. I think it kind of says stuff and goes, look, aren't I clever? But doesn't actually say anything about it, if that makes sense.
Yeah. All the stuff it's saying isn't not profound, but it's been said better elsewhere, I suppose.
Yeah.
It's sort of lost in the mix of quite a few similar kind of films.
Yeah, it's a almost like a very good GCSE English essay in that this is very good by the standards, but there's nothing original there, if that makes sense. You know, it's. I mean, I can see why they take it. I mean, it's not awfully directed, and I can see why they put it forward for Best Picture. It didn't win,
well,
obviously.
I found myself going back and forth, like, watching it, and part of it is an enjoyment thing, and part of it is that it's so meandering and it never is really pushing towards something specific. But I do like the journey overall once we get to the end of it. But I think what is missing from it is a little bit more of the contrast with what is Robert Duvall trying to overcome. You have the beginning where he's drunk in a hotel room in a fight, and then you have that point in the middle where he buys a bottle of booze but doesn't drink it. And, like, is he going back to who he was? But there's never really any other edge or, like, conflict beyond just he misses his daughter and then she dies, and then he's not really even dealing with that. But I love that scene where he's in the field talking to his wife, and he's like, why that's really Malick to me, where he's standing there saying something profound about losing your kid or whatever.
Yeah, and again, there are moments there. I think maybe sort of the ideas there, and again, I'm not saying it has to be all guns blazing, but there's a sharpness that could be found, I think, even in the low key things, a cutting, kind of piercing nature that isn't quite here with it. I think it's you don't have to be kind of overblown in order to have moments which hit in a different way. And obviously film should be used in different ways, and it can be used for these low-key, meandering, kind of more thoughtful, introspective pieces. But I think it's almost too introspective for its own good.
There's a relative lack of jeopardy in it as well, and conflict, isn't there? I mean, obviously there's the third act, shock, death and everything, but basically, he's an alcoholic with demons, and he just gets over them quite quickly, really, doesn't he? You know,
with the help of God.
Yeah, this is one of the best Christian movies I've ever watched. That is pro Christianity.
There's definitely. I seem to remember thinking there are quite a few sort of pro-Christian movements and sort of that were very much praising it and very much pushing that side of it.
And there is a link to to The Apostle, which he did 10 years later, when he directed, but he had the script from around the mid-80s, around this time, and I think he was possibly inspired by some ideas in this, like a guy kind of running from his past, rocking up in a small town and changing his life and changing the people around him. It's a well-worn kind of story, but I think done well. It's effective.
I was going to say it's not a bad movie. It's well done for what it is, but I think there's something lacking in there that could give it a drive and a poignancy.
Yeah.
That would really last. It's one of these things where it's like, oh, it's not a bad movie, but I'm also not going to remember it.
Yeah. Well, and also there's the part where, like, the local musicians are saying, hey, can we record your song? Oh, will you play with us? He goes on stage and uses his good singing voice, and then that just kind of fizzles out. And I like a lot of movies that are meandering, that don't really have points, but I just kept waiting for, okay, but what is gonna happen to this character? Like, where is he going with this? And
I'm always thrown out of a movie from the late 80s, early 90s where a random Twin Peaks actor just rocks up in the scene. It's like
Wilford Brimley just showing up randomly in this movie too is weird, as the agent for his ex-wife. Yeah, it is a bit weird. Yeah, and then I think the part where his daughter asks him, do you remember that song you used to sing to me? And he was like, no, I don't. And then she leaves and he sings it. Like, that, it's a powerful moment, but it doesn't come, she dies. Like, it doesn't come back. It doesn't really matter. And I feel like, he stands out in the field. He's like, why do bad things happen? What is life? This is all so pointless. But he doesn't feel any regret over not, like, trying more to connect with her or anything in that moment.
Yeah.
I don't think you ever hear the song again, or there's something about like a white butterfly or a white dove or something along
Wings
those
of a
lines,
dove.
isn't it?
Yeah.
I think if almost like near the end, if he'd have kind of, I don't know, like been drawing a dove or something, just something to bring it back to make the moments more impactful than they are. That like the ideas there, the execution just doesn't pierce me, and it's just the execution just something lacking. And apparently when this came out, kind of, it wasn't a massive success at the box office either. Only did like $1 million more than its budget, which was like $7 million. It made like 8.5, something like that. But the critics really did like it, and I think they liked it because, you know, this is the 80s. Like, slasher movies are now weird. We're getting big blockbusters now, and I mean, 80s blockbusters are peak 80s blockbusters, and this is very different to that. And they went, yes, we've got something different. Oh, this is true cinema, kind of thing that they can hold on to. So you know, this is another thing that shows kind of, and maybe that's why, you know, it's been lost to time. The critics like it, and it's one of these kind of, you know, we'll probably see it come out, and again, like Criterion Collection, Mark Kermode will do it for BFI Player with an introduction at some point, or a little documentary introduction by somebody like that. But aside from that, I don't think the audiences are going to remember it, because aside from Robert Duvall, realistically, this is an oddity in the Oscars list, and that's about it.
The lady who plays his second wife, she showed up in an episode of One Tree Hill I was watching the other day as Dan Scott's grandma.
And you're just like,
yeah, I was like,
what's going on?
where did I just see this actress? Oh, TV show. I mean, looking at the 1983 year through the Best Picture, Best Director, Terms of Endearment, The Big Chill, The Right Stuff, Silkwood, Fanny and Alexander, like, obviously the Oscars are trying pretty much always to like go for what is artistically, you know, what has merit, and it's not just what's the big money movie of the year. But like, I you know, I know these names, but Fanny and Alexander, Terms of Endearment, The Big Chill, like, those are the big movies that I really recognize. I think I've only seen The Big Chill of all those, and it just seems like a weird era for making art films.
Yeah.
But I mean,
just look at the Oscar Best Picture winners. I've got to catch up on. You know, my blind spots are the 30s and 40s, which I'm through now. But then it's after that, it's basically the 80s. I haven't seen like many from the 80s either, and it's not so few of these films. It weirdly seem to have lingered in the popular culture kind of consciousness.
War Games was up for Best Writing that year.
Wow, that's.
I mean, even just looking at like the highest grossing films of that year, at least in the US, number 1, Return of the Jedi, Terms of Endearment, Flashdance, Trading Places, War Games, Octopussy, Sudden Impact, Staying Alive.
Yentl came out that year.
Risky Business, Scarface was out that year, and like this one's just nowhere. So if you're a completionist and you're after some good acting from Robert Duvall, this is going to be one to go and find out, because it's probably a very good pub quiz answer as well. You know, what did Robert Duvall get his Oscar for? You know, Tender Mercies from 1983. You know, nobody's getting that. So I think it's more interesting as a historical artifact, even though it's not a bad film. And it's definitely worth checking out for some reasons, but I don't think it's going to. I think it's fallen through the cracks for a reason, if that makes sense.
Also, looking at the director, Bruce Beresford, like, the only other movie that he's made that I'm familiar with is Driving Miss Daisy. And he made a ton of movies.
Yeah. Oh, what would Driving Miss Daisy do? That's not going to, do anything, is it, really?
Yeah. I think I've heard of Double Jeopardy, but I might be confusing that with something else, so.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've heard of Crimes of the Heart, I think. May have heard of it from the book. Jessica Lange's in it. Diane Keaton. Spacek.
80s film, other than blockbusters, is a pretty big blind spot for me generally. So it was good to see this.
Can we just point out he had a film come out last year?
It's still around?
Called The Travellers.
Wow.
Okay.
It's an Australian film.
That sounds like an Australian film title.
Yeah, it was released in Australia on 9th of October, so, 4 months ago. The guy's still making movies.
Amazing.
Oh, in my research, by the way, that gas station hotel was a construction for the film and not a real location. But I will look into if there are any standing places that I could go to, like the Grapevine Opry. Apparently they filmed stuff there, so there may be some locations I could visit.
Coming to a social media post near you.
Maybe. Don't hold your breath.
Yeah, there's going to be a whole open range of photos there.
God. I mean, look, for me, Tender Mercies is the film of these three that I might rewatch out of the three of them. This one.
I agree, because I hadn't seen Open Range.
Exists.
I hadn't seen Open Range for 20 years, and about 20 minutes into Open Range, I remembered why that was.
Good God.
Because in that 20 years, it feels like it took you that long to watch it.
Yeah.
Kevin Costner made Dances with Wolves and was like, I am a Western directing god.
Yeah. I mean, I can appreciate the craft, but yeah, it's not the easiest watch. I mean, John Ford used to introduce himself with, I'm John Ford and I direct westerns, and basically Kevin Costner might as well do that these days. Or I'm Kevin Costner and I direct the same western again and again, and have to put at least half the budget up from my own money each time.
I didn't see Horizons Chapter 1, but I like the fact that he did Chapter 1, had made 2 and was planning to make 3. They haven't released 2 because it did so badly, and they're probably not going to make 3. It's just vanity projects.
Kevin, Buddy probably would help if they weren't each 3.5 hours long, and paced like treacle.
Yeah, that's. I mean, even before we go into this film looks great.
Yes,
and it's decently well acted.
Such a pretty film, yeah.
It does feel like a 90s movie, though, even though it's in 2003.
I mean, look, can I open with Kevin Costner's thoughts on the pacing, which he gave in an interview?
Yes, you may.
Just that's how he justifies it. So, Kevin Costner explained the reasoning behind the deliberate pacing of the film. Not to make it slow, but to pace it a little bit differently. I don't want something to be slow. I don't want to go to the theatre and be bored. Pace can be as important to a movie as what's said and what people are looking like. It's a really important thing. What happens is the movie starts to pick up. It's really the equivalent of what it's like to read the first 100 pages of a novel. We've all probably exchanged books with someone, and you try to explain to them, because you like the movie so much, you like the book so much, you go, oh, look, the first 100 pages are a little slow, but then it really snaps in. I don't think there's any of us that actually haven't said that to anybody. So, he rambles on like that. Again, appropriately, it's a very long quote, so it takes some time to get to the point.
Yeah.
But
I'd like to point out all of those things are applicable to Second Cut.
Also, all of those
we go on for a while, and it takes us a bit of a while to get into it, but once we get going, we're fine.
All of those things are things that you make movies to get rid of.
I know.
Different medium.
Yeah. So it basically ends up with, it's not like you can't like car crashes. It's not that you don't like action. Everybody likes action, but you want to be in the middle of it somehow. You don't want to be on the outside. So I think basically saying the pacing is all part of the immersive experience. Which, okay, Kev, whatever you say.
Sorry, was that not a quote from Horizon and American Saga Parts 1, 2, 3, and 4?
Should have been, shouldn't it?
Was that not like an essay somebody wrote at some point?
Yeah. So. Basically, Open Range is 2003 Western by Kevin Costner. It's about two cowboys, Charlie and Boss Spearman, who are Costner and Robert Duvall, respectively, who are interrupted in their cattle drive when they come into conflict with a powerful landowner and his hired guns, who is responsible for the imprisonment and eventual death of their friend, and becomes sort of like a kind of a payback movie, a revenge movie, essentially, on the back of that. Notable for having having Michael Gambon, one of the rare occasions where it's actually allowed to be Irish.
Yeah.
And it's weird hearing him with a proper Irish brogue.
It is. It's so off-putting, but I'm like, that's his actual voice.
Because when he did Dumbledore, he sort of did like a soft kind of Irish, didn't he? But generally speaking, no, you're not used to hearing it. And he's an absolute cad in this. I mean, it's great to see him playing a dastardly villain. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah. Proper, like, Western baddie, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
You know, what was weird to me was young Diego Luna.
Yeah, baby Andor in this. Yeah, it was like no beard or anything, just like so kind of young and inexperienced. I mean, I this would have been just after Y Tu Mamá También, I think, or the same year as Y Tu Mamá También. So yeah, it was like one of his first big films. So the film is really pretty, and really well performed, but it's really slow as well. I say the flood scene, where kind of the whole of this like frontier town basically just kind of goes underwater in like a flash flood, and Kevin Costner's got to save a little dog. That's a really good scene. And then the final shootout, which is like the last 25 minutes, near the last 25 minutes or so of the film, because then he's going to do like an unnecessarily long 15-minute epilogue after that. But that's a really good scene as well, and. I think he commented at the time, Costner, that he was surprised that it ended up getting an R rating or a 15 in the UK, because he basically said it was because it's realistic violence, and it was kind of, you saw people like slowly bleeding out and stuff like that. They reckon that was the reason for it. It was definitely a 15 over here. Do you want to check if it was an R in the States, Jacob?
Yeah, I can look into that.
I was going to say, it's certainly a neo-Western rather than a traditional Western, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's basically what it's kind of going for, isn't it? It's kind of,
I think it's PG-13, sorry.
Okay, fair enough. But he reckon basically said that it's the violence basically that gave it the certification it got, where he said there's not really anything else that would kind of give it that, because there's no sex in it, no language, nothing else really.
I do a little bit contest that it is a neo-Western, just in the sense that it's so boring. Really. Yeah.
I'd say it's sort of like I think we've seen a lot of westerns in the past where it's been like a couple of mismatched kind of gunslingers or cowboys. Usually an older one who's seen everything, and a younger upcoming one. Kind of, and they're kind of
a
give and take
buddy cowboy.
Yeah, basically is what it is. I mean, I think it's very much talking. It's kind of in conversation with something like Red River. You think of John Wayne and who's his co-star in that? It's oh god, what's his name now?
Maureen O'Hara. Well, look, I'll say this. It's maybe it is a neo-Western because it's so epic and like
Montgomery Clift.
There you go.
Thank you, Montgomery Clift.
Trying to be grounded and epic and all of those things, but it's not revisionist. Yeah. Like it's very traditional and standard and.
Yeah.
To a certain extent for that, but with the kind of spurts of blood and the kind of the way it's shot, it feels kind of a bit more Peckinpah than like a 50s kind of, I don't know, the Battle at LO Ranch or something.
And I suppose you have a guy returning from the Civil War with PTSD as well. Which kind of
and I feel it's sort of later in the Western kind of Western era almost than kind of earlier on. The interiors of some of the houses and stuff feels a bit towards sort of the early 1900s rather than the kind of 1860s, 70s.
So I suppose it's traditional in kind of the story it's telling and certain kind of aesthetics of it, but it's a down and dirty kind of grittier take on that, I suppose, or a more tactile, realistic version.
Barely gritty.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, apparently Costner was really attracted to the script because he said he liked having these moments where it's one of the few westerns where these big manly men actually have conversations. They actually talk about what they're going through. They don't just mumble at each other. It's like that. That's probably one of the best scenes, isn't it? Where they're both lying back, at night, at their campsite, and they have a sort of a bit of a heart to heart, or as much of a heart to heart as men like that will ever have. I mean, I think it's a real good showcase for, obviously, it's a latter day kind of Robert Duvall performance. I mean, probably the biggest role for him in like his last chapter of his career, I'd say. I mean, to the extent that Costner kind of gave him top billing. I think the studio wanted it the other way around, but he said no, you're giving Duvall the top billing here. He's like the main drive of this.
Yeah,
and it's like this kind of. It's a good showcase for like his hyper competent, kind of reliable, kind of worldly wise kind of star persona. And I like just whenever he walks into a room, you can tell he's completely control the situation. That they're on the back foot for quite a lot of this. Quite a few situations where they could just basically be shot there and then. But he's kind of the antagonist kind of work out. Yeah, we're not going to mess with this guy. He's got it going on.
yeah.
And I like how in the Costner's playing the character with PTSD, and there's a few kind of showier scenes, where he's having flashbacks and bad reactions to the world. But generally, he's happy as star director to kind of take a step back and just let Robert Duvall do his thing, and gets all the best lines and most of the best moments. I mean, I like. There's not many lines in the script itself that particularly stood out to me, but like just before like the final battle, you have Duvall going, "It's a pretty day for making things right," and Costner responds with, "Well, enjoy it, because once it starts, it's going to be messy like nothing you've ever seen." But then you have the stuff like kind of alluded to with in our intro, just the thing about like before your final gunfight, you want to go out with something to look forward to, final small pleasure in life. So yeah, I'm going to buy some nice cigars and some chocolate from the general store.
From Switzerland all the way from Europe. It's near France, see?
Yeah, exactly.
To be honest, I think that's actually probably the best scene in the film.
Yeah.
For me, I think it's and not only because they get to impart some wisdom to whoever the shop owner is. I'm not sure, but it's like they're like, is it good? It's like maybe it's like, how do you know it melts in your mouth? And they're like, well, we've never actually been able to afford it, Yeah. And they go, you know what, you're going to die one day, try it, money doesn't matter at that point of view. And I think that, more than anything else, puts them in the nihilism of their position. Rather than them buying it, I'm going to buy another one so that you can have it. I'm going to put somebody else in the position that I am in. And you it makes the shop owner one of the spectators in that sense. So we have another place to identify with.
And these little moments of humanity it brings to the role, I think, as well. It's like he's kind of when it matters, he can be brutal and ruthless, as he needs to be to survive. But he's almost too kind and decent a person for this kind of era of history. So it was all shot in Canada because it was cheaper to do it that way. I mean, spectacular Canadian landscapes, standing quite well for Montana, I think. Apparently Robert Duvall didn't like it, though. He didn't like going to Canada. I think he said something along the problem. He was an older guy with certain Republican kind of leanings, so you don't want to drill too far into his politics, I don't think. But I think he came out with something vaguely xenophobic, like, so I don't like Canada. America's right there. He said something about, it's like that's why they keep bringing all our stars up here, because they don't have any of their own. He said something along those lines. So probably gloss over that one.
Xenophobic quotes, and yet he starred in, he was in To Kill a Mockingbird, which is one of the most liberal things ever written.
I will give him this. I read that by 2014 he was like, the Republican Party is stupid. So I don't know where he stood on Trump.
Oh yeah.
But...
No, I haven't heard anything about Trump. He was a sport of Sarah Palin, but I think after that basically said, even I've had enough of this. I'm getting out of here.
I'm making an assumption here. I think he was more of like a John McCain kind of conservative and less of a
probably
grifter, opportunistic, like
I would imagine so. Yeah.
Sort of like an old school sensibility rather than like a blatant populist.
Yeah. He was like a Jimmy Stewart populist, Jimmy Stewart kind of conservative rather than a Kelsey Grammer conservative.
Which those types in the 60s could have been pro or anti-segregation and things like that. Like,
Oh yeah,
I was going to say, please obviously bear in mind that Republicanism and Democrats, kind of in terms of political views on slavery and stuff like that, was the other way around when Lincoln was there. Lincoln was getting rid of it, and he was a Republican, and the Democrats wanted to keep it. So
Richard Nixon is responsible for a lot of the modern Republican Party.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Canada. So it didn't. I don't think the shoot started well because failing at the start. Robert Duvall, who was in his early 70s at the time, got thrown off his horse and broke 6 ribs. This was like when he was practicing his horse skills. He just before starting, so they had to delay shooting for a while he recovered from that. But got to give him credit. He was a resilient old bugger. A lot of people would have. Would have had to bow out at that point, but I think they just gave him a bit more time to to recover, to get his riding legs back. It's funny that he was like 70, 71 when he was filming this. Yeah, and he's playing their other ally in the town. That guy keeps calling him old man. Michael Jetta was 50 at the time. I mean, he also tragically died before this release, so he died tragically young. But Robert Duvall kind of calling this, admittedly, kind of hunched over, kind of limping 50-year-olds, calling him old man. But that kind of, you say that, but then it kind of, you pause, you think, well, actually, he was in pretty good nick for a guy in his early 70s, wasn't he? I mean, he's still got this like vitality and energy even at this point. He doesn't look or move like an old man, I don't think. I mean, he's always looked weathered. I think he's looked older than he actually is since the 70s.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I think he's one of these guys who, I think he's good looking when he was a handsome guy when he was younger. I think a bit like someone like Humphrey Bogart. I think certain people are born about 40, and then they just kind of the rest of the body just kind of slowly catches up to them. Apparently, Kevin Costner was considered for Kill Bill for the role of Bill in Kill Bill, and he turned it down so he could direct and star in this. That would have been a very different film, I think, having Costner as Bill.
Yes.
I thought you were going to say Duvall, which would make more sense to me than Costner, to be honest.
Yeah.
But how could you not cast the guy from Kung Fu? Like,
yes, when the opportunity arose,
Yeah, Costner
will at some. No, go ahead.
Oh yeah, Costner just does. Yeah, I could see him in The Hateful Eight, but he doesn't seem like a Kill Bill style Tarantino actor.
I was going to say, at some point we'll do an entire episode where all we do is just talk about alternative timelines of people that could have been cast in various films and how the entirety of film history, at least American film history, would be completely different as a result.
But my favourite one is always Tom Selleck as Indiana Jones. Which I think would have been good, but it would
Nicolas
have been different.
Cage as Aragorn.
Harrison Ford as Monica and Ross's dad on Friends.
Well, instead of Elliot Gould.
Oh, I thought that was Tom Selleck. I forgot she dated him. Never mind. She dates Tom Selleck.
Yeah. I mean, I've not really got much else to say about Open Range. It's typical Costner. It's very pretty to look at. Very very well crafted, but you want him to get on with it, really. But the kind of 2 hours 20 or whatever it is gives you plenty of time, to appreciate the talent that is Robert Duvall, and it's nice. He's got good chemistry with Costner. It's nice that Costner gave him that kind of grandstanding kind of opportunity, which just do your stuff, Robert. We know what you do well. This role is perfect for you. I don't think he's considered anyone else for this. By the way, I think as soon as you saw a script, it's like, that's a Rob Duvall role. I'm gonna be pursuing mercilessly for this.
Yeah, it looks gorgeous and it's very well made, but it does have the feeling like that all novels have, and it doesn't matter what it is, where the first half is about this big and the second half is about this big, and you don't know how it works. The laws of physics change when you get over halfway through a book. Suddenly it's an awful lot shorter than the first half, and that's what it feels like with this. As soon as it gets like, right, okay, we're going to come into town and now we're going to start gearing up to have a battle, which is literally like an hour and a bit into the film where they go, this is our plan going forward, you know. suddenly the entire thing goes, right, we know what we're doing now, right, let's actually get on and get going with it, which is like, oh, finally, thank you.
Yeah, you can't fault the craft of the performances, and that, like, I respect that. I respect Costner having a vision, enjoying those novels, executing that. I just found it really boring and did not enjoy it. So
Yeah.
I'm much less inclined to check out Horizon than American.
Horizon, yeah, but
None of us bothered to check that out.
Because it's going to be like this, but an hour longer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I may at some point watch it just to fill you guys in on how bad it was,
I mean, look, I would rather just watch that Jane Campion movie with Benedict Cumberbatch. Like, it's
Power of the Dog.
Yeah, I mean, it's not exactly the same dynamic, but older guy, younger kid.
Yeah.
Like,
and interesting that was like that was over 2 hours as well, wasn't it? That was 2 hours something, and
Yeah. And it was also directed by Jane Campion. So.
and again, a very deliberate pacing, but somehow more compelling, more. I don't know. Again, maybe it's got like that kind of spirituality, kind of just another element to it. It's kind of it's somehow more compelling, more interesting, more to get at. I mean, this is just another men on horses movie. Just doing what they always do in westerns, basically.
yeah, I'd rather just watch John Ford movies than this. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I mean, these are far from the only films Robert Duvall is in, and he's in more of them, much more than he is in To Kill a Mockingbird.
I mean, look, my friends will kill me if I don't at least pay lip service to A Shot at Glory. Do you guys know what A Shot at Glory is?
It sounds like a sports film.
It is. It is.
I've now just got a Judas Priest song stuck in my head. One Shot of Glory.
It's Robert Duvall coaching a Scottish football team. He co-stars with.
Are you saying it's Robert Duvall doing Manfred's Orphans?
Kind of, yeah, but in Scotland, but they're like a professional team, yeah. So, but they're like a lower division kind of team, but yeah, and that's I think for some reason, group of mates just have a bit of an obsession with Rob Duvall, which we our group chat for the longest time, or the last couple of years, because we kept talking about it, kept saying, God, he's very old. I wonder if he's going to die. And our group chat is literally, is Robert Duvall safe? Is he all right? And it broke my heart the other week to change the group chat to the group name to no, he is not. R.I.P.
Oh.
You need to find another actor that's still going and just to see if they're alive. Is Jack Nicholson still alive?
Yeah. Yeah, but A Shot at Glory is not a good film, but it is an entertaining one. It's one of those. It's like just put it on a party with a few drinks. You'll probably have a good time with it. Rob Duvall has a go at an accent when he remembers to. I can't remember whether his character's meant to be I think his character's meant to be Scottish, but he's been away for a while, so he's meant to just have
That's the excuse that they threw in after. We'll put in a line later on.
Yeah.
I believe so. It's something like that.
And we said at the top, but go check out our episodes on the Godfather trilogy and the Oscar snubs, where we have Apocalypse Now and the Godfather films. He's not in like 3, I think, or 2, one of them.
Didn't he refuse to turn up for 3?
Yeah. He's in 1 and 2, and they didn't pay him enough to come back for 3. In fact, I think I found like an anecdote about that. I think basically Francis Ford Coppola. I think he basically said, he wanted to be paid what he thought he was deserved. And I think when he found out Pacino was getting 3 times as much as him, he said, "No way." So they wrote out his character and gave his character's role to Andy Garcia's character, basically.
Yeah. Well, it's not like there's much meat there for him anyway. But Robert Duvall, you'll be missed. But thankfully, we have all these movies to watch.
Indeed.
Yeah, I mean, doesn't he like 120 screen credits or something? So there's plenty to catch up on.
And is that just film, or is this including TV as well?
It probably includes TV, yeah.
Nice.
So you got a lot of watching to go for.
Yep. So that is it for this episode, though. We'll be back next week with something else. Until then, guys, where can people find you?
You can find me at SSP Thinks Film and at the Second Cut Pod Substack. I've not written anything since last time. I don't think so. Just it's still the send help review. I think is my most recent thing up there. So yep, check that out.
Hopefully you don't find me anywhere. If you do, I'm K Judgmental in various places. I think I've got obviously the BAFTAs round up, and I don't know when this is going out, so I may or may not have a review of Scream 7 up by then. So yeah, as and when.
Yep, and you can find me at Jacob Film Guy, where I'll write something. I don't know. I didn't end up seeing Wuthering Heights, so maybe I will see that eventually. But you can find us at Second Cut Pod. Get in touch with us, secondcutpod@gmail.com. And that is it. Thank you for listening, and goodbye.